Recorded.
I read an article in The Forward, if you're familiar with that magazine. It was online, but I was so impressed with what this woman was saying that I wanted to repeat it. Her contention is that the biggest threat to anti-Semitism is not coming from other people. It's not coming from the right, it's not coming from the left. It's coming from, sorry? No? Okay, I thought you said something. It's coming from ourselves. Think about that for a minute. She makes a biblical reference. She says, look at Jacob. Look at his threats. Look at his anti-Semitism he dealt with. He dealt with Laban, who was jealous of the fact that as a Jew, or as someone who would be considered a Jew, was doing well. Next, he comes across Esau, who was upset that he took his birthright. He was jealous. The next threat comes when they move to Shechem, and we know what happens with Dinah, okay? So the xenophobia and the disrespect. But then what happens? The next threat is with what? The brothers, his sons, are jealous of Joseph, and they sell him into slavery. What's going on today? We have Jews on both sides of the issue of Gaza. Now, in my mind, and maybe this is my ignorance, there is only one side, and that is Hamas is using these people. They are terrorizing these people. They are holding them hostage. They are blaming us for all the killing, and most of the world is believing them. Anybody familiar with Eurovision, the Eurovision contest in Europe? It was designed, well, it goes all the way back, from what I understand, to the 50s, that Europe wanted to find some way to bring themselves together after World War II, because they were fractured. And they created this song contest, this multinational, pan-European song contest, to which Israel became invited. Well, this year, there are countries that don't want them in the contest. Norway, Sweden, Spain, not a surprise, right? And Netherlands are saying that if Israel sends a candidate to participate in Eurovision, they will not participate. Which I would say, so what? That's fine. Okay? These are the type of things we're facing. Even after there has been peace, declared anyway, in the Middle East. And it is obvious that it is evident that Hamas is breaking the peace accord. But people don't care. Okay, fine. Okay, you've got that level of anti-Semitism around the world. It's existed. It always has. For all we know, it always will. Until hopefully the Messianic age. But you see some of the divisions in our people. You see people in Israel. Okay, there's a big fight about whether the Haredi, the ultra-Orthodox, should participate in the fight, in defending Israel. That's fracturing us. In our own country, we have people, the Jewish Voice of Peace, most of whom are not Jewish from what I understand, and I could be wrong, but this is what I read. These are people that are anti-Zionist. They don't believe we should be returning to our land. They see us as colonizers. These are Jewish people. You see people supporting candidates that are blatantly anti-Semitic. And this is our own people. But you know what? Unfortunately, it's no surprise. It's like, here we go again. What happened 2,500 years ago? We had this kingdom of Israel. And we had our third king, Solomon, was going to fulfill God's promise, God's request, God's will, and build a magnificent temple. He went a little overboard, ran up a massive debt. And when he died, and his son was ready to take over the kingdom, the northern 10 tribes said, we're not paying for that. We don't pay for it. We're succeeding. And we now have a split country. We have a split kingdom. We have the kingdom of Israel in the north. We have the kingdom of Judah in the south. The kingdom of Judah continued to worship at the temple and to keep the mitzvot, the commandments. The northern kingdom, well, let's just say that one golden calf wasn't enough for them. They had to have two. And we saw what happened to that. That didn't work out. So we've even seen it in our own community, haven't we? And that's the real sad part. We've seen people that have just fought. They don't want to be together. They don't get their way. They're gone. And they're nasty about it too. We've seen some of that. And how do you fix it? And the answer is you really can't. I read another article. It wasn't an article, I'm sorry. It was a reel on Facebook, I think, where somebody was saying, if you're Jewish today, think of all that your ancestors have survived for you to be Jewish now. Let's go all the way back to Egypt and the Exodus. Not the sages say, not all the Jews left. There were Jews that had become so Egyptianized that they stayed. They bore the consequences of it, but they stuck it, they stayed. And the 2 million so Jews that left, or Israelites that left, were just a small part of the whole population. Hard to believe, but a small country, but it was. And then the division of the northern kingdom. Half of the Israelites were up here, half of them down here, and it was only the bottom half, the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, that survived. Then we were cast out into the diaspora, into exile. Not before Greece had tried to take over, and there were Jews that become Hellenized. They liked the Greek way of life. And then the Romans came, and that was the end of the Second Temple, and we were scattered, and we endured 2,000 years of persecution. And yet we are the survivors of all that. We're survivors of that. We're survivors of the Holocaust in Europe. And here we are. We've endured. Recently, the Jewish population of the world has reached the pre-Holocaust level, 15 million Jews. That's all we are, 15 million. We're up on the screen. So we have to find some way to survive. But history tells us that if we don't, if some of us don't, the rest of us will. We are coming up into Hanukkah, okay? And that is, let's say, the 5th, week and a half away, 14th. December 14th is going to be the 25th of Kislev. It's when we light our first candle. You know how they said that it was the Maccabee revolt? That's all that revolted were the Maccabees. That's it. That's why it took 7 years to kick out the Greeks. And by the way, here's a fun fact that I read in the Talmud. Do you know that the Romans were our good friends for a while, for about 100 years? Because the Romans were fighting the Greeks too. They were trying to succeed. And it was us, it was Judah and his Maccabees, right, his brothers, that defeated the Seleucid Greeks. And that's what helped Rome become the superpower that they were. So for 100 years, we had pretty good relations with Rome until the Republic collapsed and the empire came. And once again, here we go. So this is our history. This is our legacy. We have to do what we have to do to maintain it and preserve it. And when other Jews are ignoring Israel, and it's okay to have a difference of opinion. Okay, you may not like Netanyahu in the government. Okay, you may like him. That's fine. There are people here that like the current government. There are people that don't. But we're all still Americans, right? We all go to work every day, and just some people are saying, "Yeah, let's have a third term." Other people are going, "Is it time for the election yet?" But that's okay. We find a way to get along. We have to find a way to get along and put our differences behind us and say it's okay to have differences. Okay, that's why you got Orthodox, Conservative, Reformed, and Reconstructionist Jews, different ways of looking at something. And that's fine. Okay? But to have issues like this, we either have, united we stand, divided we fall. We've seen that. So we have to find a way to get along, or we just have to look at our brothers and sisters that don't want to and say, good luck to you. That's it. We're going to preserve. We're going to preserve what we have here. We're going to preserve that. And because we're going to preserve that, we will survive. And we will. So let's think about that as we come into Hanukkah. And we learn about the divisions and what it takes to fight for something that you believe in. And that's our legacy.